President, the chair will give members some latitude here, but remember, by Robert's 2 comments per issue. Mr. Evans.
My thoughts on the amendment, as it stands, we transferred earlier $220,000 out of the rec fees to get to a total of $220. Under this amendment, another 480 would be transferred towards the ice rink. That would take us to $700,000 even. That's leaving the $60,000 back. One of my thoughts was, of that 60 staying back, half of it, and I need to get some clarification on this, would be reimbursed with RCAP money. So the 60, if 30 is coming back to us being reimbursed, we have the 70 plus 30 more. We're now at $730,000 of a project estimated to be at $745,000. One of the key, I forgot which councilman said, but one of the keys to this is we don't know exactly what that amount is. The budget amount for Mr. Clark is $745. It's where we hope it comes in at. If it'd be lower, it would be terrific. But if it comes in right at that $745, if we use that as our marker, and we hold the $60,000 back, and we transfer the other 480, the 220, we're at $700. We get 30 from the RCAP back. We've now have $730,000 out of the $745 needed, or we funded 98% of the project. I think the will of council is that we do want this. We are going to do what we need to do to get the ice rink to open. It may need some more creative transferring or moving of funds that are not being used or that can be moved at a later time. But by holding that back, I think the Main Street parking is something that we wanted to do a month or 2 ago. We still wanted to get done. I think the plan on the table for the northbound diagonal parking is an efficient plan, and as well as the parking on the Main Street. And I think that can be done with under the $60,000 amount. I think that's a number we were given. I think it's even below that number. So in the end, even more will go toward the ice rink, which of course we do want to get done. But I think that both can be done.
Do you have a question for the administration? Mr. Clark, the way you phrased some of your questions.
No, well, Mr. Clark, from what I understand, the actual amount, that's $745 is the number we're all talking about. Is it? Am I correct in the? It'll be the 20th until we have a true number back from what the. I guess there's a couple different contracts coming back to put this together.
Yes, to properly public bid this and advertise with the correct time sequencing and so forth. The earliest we estimate to have the bids advertised and received back would be probably 3rd week of September.
3rd of September.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we are not going to give an exact number, but we have a pretty good estimate based on the numbers you have.
Yes. Yes.
On the sheet you provided to us.
I've met with 2 different companies that do this work, and they've reviewed the current situation. That's I think, a pretty comfortable number.
Number
745. 745 is the number, yes, sir.
So 745 is the number from you. And Mr. Alcoff,
Go right ahead.
I'll call a question. To do the 2 projects we're speaking of, and this is the projects of South Main Street, one moving, adding diagonal parking from the parallel north of the existing diagonal parking, as well as a Main Street ramp, adding some parking there. There's some projects we talked about a little while ago. Can you give me, do you have numbers on that?
Yeah, in round numbers, to add the parking on the Main Street ramp and the additional parking on Main Street, then round figures 50 grand.
One more question about that.
Go ahead.
Finance. And I don't know if this may be Mr. Reich or Mr. Alcoff. Is that subject to the matching funds? If we put them out, we would get back. I know earlier we talked that was part of the play.
With all due respect to the Parking Authority Executive Director, I'd want to look at, since the nature of the improvements that are being contemplated there have changed, I think we'd have to go back and look at the state grant, the scope of the state grant, the state grant, the RCAP dollars, and see if these projects would in fact be eligible. So just so you understand, first of all, we're not absolutely sure that despite the fact that we had some vehicles there for 10 days, that's not an engineering study. That's not enough to say, go ahead and put cars there for 365 days. That's not how we make decisions here in the city. We need PennDOT's approval. We need a structural engineer to evaluate the bridge to make sure that it's okay to handle that weight load. We're not in a position today to make that decision. There's also Jersey barriers and other issues and considerations that you have to remember when the engineering study was done to look at parking options. The ramp was excluded for various reasons. Now we have to go back and see whether that makes sense again, okay? And so we're not in a position tonight to tell you whether that's gonna work one way or the other. But the way that the RCAP works, assuming that these projects, as contemplated, the changes in parking are eligible, it is a dollar for dollar match, a 50% eligible match. But we expend the dollars first, and then we wait, sometimes in an inordinate period of time, to be reimbursed by the state. So to think that we're gonna have the skate rink in limbo, waiting for those $30,000 to come, they may not come till next skate season. That's just because you have to do the work, submit the receipts for the reimbursement for the dollar for dollar match. So, that's just the nature of the beast. It does take some time. It's not something that happens quickly.
All right, thank you, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Stone?
I have a quick question
Go
for
right ahead.
Mr. Alcohol. The other part of the Main Street parking project was the drainage, the sidewalk. Do you have a rough number for what that would cost?
Yes, to address the drainage issue, and the curb, the deficient curb, and brick sidewalk on the east side of the street is again another $50,000. And lastly, to deal with possible replacement of the curb and sidewalk and address the parkway area, possibly add some lights or trees, depending on how far you want to go and how fancy you want to get with that. That could be anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 more. So in total, if we do everything, about $200,000 is not the beautiful part. And that's not based on a detailed. Some of it is based on a detailed estimate, like the drainage we did work in detail, the sidewalk replacement and curb, and on the east side of the street, we don't have an official estimate, so I'm really ballparking that part.
May I ask one question? Is this project, looking at that sort of separately, South Main Street Improvement Project or something like that, is that something that the city has packaged as a potential grant opportunity with the state? Since it is, it could come under PHMC or, which I'm not sure that there's any money there, but I'm just wondering if that project, I always wondered why it got linked the way it did with the 9 parking spots, because it seems to me to be really an improvement and beautification project, sort of separate from the parking spots.
Well, we've always been looking for the opportunity to address some of the issues that are there. Quite honestly, some of those issues are budding property owner responsibility and some are city responsibility. When the parking study was done and they identified the possible addition of parking, that was a perfect opportunity to tag on and take care of the other issues as well as implement the parking, and that's how the project came around. There was anticipation for reimbursement through RCAP as well. So we were taking that opportunity to take care of all those issues and do them in a fairly efficient and cost-effective way.
I think it's important to note that many people heard the initial number for the parking and thought, oh my God, it's so much money for each parking space, without realizing that a large percentage of that money was going to this other project. And I think this other project is really important, but I can see it as separate at this point. May I ask the mayor a question, and then maybe he'll just go ahead and answer it? Okay. My question is, and maybe Dennis Riker actually should answer this, that $75,000 that's now in unprogrammed funds, is that an unprogrammed funds under CDBG still? I mean, it's CDBG money, and it's unprogrammed funds in a CDBG bond or grant, correct? Is that right? So if we reach a point, at some point, where we have solid numbers and we know what each aspect of this multiple-pronged project costs, we could use that $75,000 to begin work, potentially.
We believe so, yes. I mean, I see no reason to believe why doing the work 100 yards away from the work that was originally contemplated, that was eligible for CDBG funding before. We don't see any reason why it wouldn't be eligible again.
And I also think that the condition of the sidewalk, probably just looking at that as an ADA issue. And I think there are other ADA issues with that area. I'm sure those would be addressed in that project. Okay, based on that, I would say we just keep things where they are. Let's fund that ice rink fully, 100%. I am very concerned about even being $10,000 or $20,000 short on the project, because when you start taking apart and fixing older buildings, you just don't know what you're going to find. So this is already shaved down to its bare bones, and we're using estimates that we can rely on, as opposed to the parking where we don't really know what we're spending or when we're doing it. I think we've got to give our full energies to the project that's ready to go, and just leave that money where it is. And knowing that we have the $75,000 is a really pretty good amount of seed dollars, potentially with a match, to get the other projects going. I feel comfortable with that. So I don't think we, with all due respect to Councilman D.G. Jacinto, who always puts so much effort and time into what he does, I won't support it for that reason, because we do have $75,000 available for the parking and beautification project.
Any other comments?
Yeah, unless we're paying in advance these days, I don't think we're going to spend $745,000 right off the get-go. So, again, I'm not sure why everyone's concerned that we don't have enough money in a certain account earmarked for the ice skating rink, when we seem to move money all throughout the year in every finance committee meeting. We're always constantly moving money around because of various reasons. So the 60 grand in May was the number that was tossed around in a couple of meetings. I feel it more comfortable where it belonged. Again, I'm letting remind everybody that we're going to spend 380 grand 5 weeks ago. Everybody turned sour on the project all of a sudden, but the need has not gone away. The CDBG money might be there, it may not be there. We don't know that, you don't know that. So I just think the 60 grand is safe where it is. If we need to come back later on and talk about it, I think we can come back later on and talk about it. But 745 is not a lock. I get the message everybody wants to fix the ice skating rink, but we're not going to pay that bill on day one, and we don't even have a project yet. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Yeah, that $75,000 in unprogrammed funds actually, I believe, is there until someone would come back to council and suggest that we spend it on another project. So I don't think that could go anywhere. I agree with Councilman Nolan. I also think that while I'm not against the idea of spending money down there, I think at this point there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that we would need to do. I don't work in construction, but I do know that as far as that area is concerned, I mean, in a couple of months, we're going to be running into more inclement weather that may make the project harder to do. It sounds like something we could look at for the 2011 budget, but just at this moment, as Councilman Dolan eloquently said, I think we're looking at something that we need to fix now. And there's this other situation where a lot of us are thinking about wanting to do something there, but there's too many questions in my mind to vote for it, especially when that $75,000 is there in unprogrammed funds until the administration would come back to us, even after whatever study needs to be done or whatever needs to be considered, any new plan that would need to come before. So with all of the question marks about that project, including, as Mr. Appel told me, which I didn't know, that potential could be $200,000 rather than the initial $40,000 or $50,000 that we discussed. I will be joining Councilman Dolan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blinsky, any comments?